Good morning. I hope everybody's having a good day. Um, I am recording this before I've looked at all of the paragraph or all of the topic submissions. So if you haven't gotten that in, please get that in right away. And we're going to talk today about developing paragraphs in the body of the paper. I firmly believe that the paragraphs should be the building blocks of your papers. And we're going to discuss novels in general, or the act of reading novels in general, for a few slides. We'll get into the meat of the novel, I think, probably starting next Monday. I know a couple people said they haven't gotten the book yet. So please get the book. Please get everything, please catch up with the reading. Um, the pages on the syllabus are the pages you're supposed to have read at the start of class. Also, please remember that Friday, um, most of you will be watching a video, and four of you will be in class, and we'll be working on a writing lab, looking at papers together, talking about the good, the bad, the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly. One of the best ways to build a paragraph, especially for a research paper where you're supposed to be argumentative, is the Tolman argument. The Tolman argument talks about claim. It has some qualifiers. It has reasons or evidence. You'll hear me use the term data quite a bit. It has warrants, and then it has whatever backing those warrants need. I think I have everything lined up in this presentation to explain that, but if I don't, please remember that uh, when you come to class next, have questions ready, and we'll try to talk everything through so that we can explain everything and everybody can be on the same page. When you're developing claims and warrants, claims are the points you want to make. Warrants are the explanations why those points are valid. I think you start with the research. I know it's tempting to, this is what I want to prove. Now I'm going to go find somebody who agrees with me. And in 2021, that finding somebody who agrees with you is probably pretty easy. But I think it's better to look at the evidence and create the claim based on the evidence. And then you develop a warrant to link the claim to that evidence. Okay. So I have a really bad, but I think it's a serviceable example. Research shows me that hotel bathtubs are slippery. My claim is going to be don't dance while showering in a hotel bathroom. My warrant is you don't want strangers to see you lying on a floor naked and crying. The idea behind this, of course, is that if you dance in a slippery bathtub, you are going to fall, and when you reach my age, you're going to break something. The research gave me the claim. The purpose of the warrant is to tie the claim and the research together. Warrants, as I just said, provide a connection between claim and reasons and evidence. They explain how exactly do I get from the data to the claim. There are a couple of things that are important here. They allow readers to determine unstated assumptions. For example, my unstated assumption when I wrote the sentences for that slide was that people fall, and when people fall, they break something. That's not always true. All right. And another unstated assumption is that everybody's clumsy. And when they slip, and will slip while dancing on a slippery surface. Perhaps some of you are graceful. Perhaps some of you were ice skaters and you're not going to fall because you're used to dancing on a slippery surface. And ever so often, I don't think it's frequently, but ever so often, you may have to back up the warrant with more evidence. But for right now, I think the basics are how do I get from the data to the claim? How do I connect the data to the claim? All right. That's the purpose of the warrant. That's the main point of the paragraph. That's what the paragraph's going to do. Useful warrants should provide original thoughts about the quotation that you're using, about the concrete detail that you're providing, about the data that you're providing. And remember, data can be direct quotations, data can be the direct quotation, it can be a paraphrase, it can be some detail that would be the paraphrase. All right. Try to avoid stating the obvious. Try to tell the reader something they may not have already figured out. As I said in class, and I think I said in the previous presentation, please make sure that as you're doing this stuff, you're taking the reader and you're leading him or her by the hand to the point you're trying to make. The purpose of the warrant is to make it very, very clear to the reader, this is the point, this is why the point is valid. You should begin the warrants in your pre-writing and rough drafts with a couple of phrases. This shows that, this also shows that, this is important because, this reveals that, this implies. I'm going to talk, I think, on Friday about revising and editing. And I think in a rough draft, all of these phrases are very, very important. I think in the final copy, you should work to remove those phrases. Okay. But I think it's important to think about, what do warrants do? They show X, or you're going to explain that this shows X, or you're going to explain why something is important, or you're going to explain that it reveals something or it implies something. Okay. And so think about, what is it that the data is doing, and then the warrant should explain what the data is doing. So those verbs, shows, or reveals, or implies, or just that adjective, important, I think, are ways to look at warrants. What is the data doing specifically for you? Avoid using data as a warrant. Remember, I've said time after time after time, data does not speak for itself. Avoid creating warrants that don't relate to the claim. Remember, the very, very purpose of the warrant is to, how did we get from the data to the claim? The warrants are supposed to answer that question. And be careful about contradictions. I know that this should seem obvious, but I have seen people make a statement and then put data behind the statement that contradicts that statement. All right? Or write warrants that contradict what the data and claims say. Make sure you have a complete, coherent story as you're writing your paper here. Don't repeat the warrants. Every warrant should kind of be, every warrant should be original and further an argument. They should be building blocks, not repetitive. I think I have a couple of slides talking about that in a bit. In fact, right here at the top of the thing, avoid warrant mistakes. The warrant that repeats itself. Dancing in a hotel bathtub is unsafe. Dancing in a hotel bathroom is dangerous. There's no difference there. Dancing in hotel bathtubs is risky because one can fall, break bones, and lie whimpering in the middle of the bathroom floor until the maid finds you. All right. I've got risky. Now I've got broken bones, developing the risky, layering it on. Now I've got the potential embarrassment building on top of that. Again, avoid the generic. All right. Dancing in a hotel bathroom is unsafe is fairly generic. Dancing in a hotel bathroom can cause bodily harm, I think, broken bones, and lifelong embarrassment. Sorry for the typo there. Okay. So it can cause bodily harm, broken bones, and lifelong embarrassment. At least it's specific, telling me what can happen, and I might have to develop that further, but at least it's giving me a beginning. One of the early slides, we talked about qualifiers. Remember that very, very few things are absolute. And so as you think about the paper, Think about doing the qualifiers: few, frequently, often, uh, usually, perhaps, generally. There's these on the slide as well. Think about limiting the claim so that it is a serviceable claim, so that the claim applies. Because, as I said, there's very few times where something is 100% true. Remember that the body paragraph is the building block of the paper. It is everything that the paper should be doing. Okay. It should have a group of sentences that supports a single idea, and that single idea should be the paper's thesis. The paper's thesis will be broken down into 3 or 4 parts. Each paragraph should be related to the thesis. And I hate reading slides, but I think this one I'm just going to go word for word here. It should be unified around an idea stated in the topic sentence. It should follow the specific order, and the evidence and the details should all fit together. Okay. And then as you're writing the paragraphs, you're going to begin with a claim that ties back to your thesis, the thesis for the whole paper, but your claim is going to be in the topic sentence. You should have data from your research. And remember, you have worked backwards. Your research has provided your thesis. Your research has provided your claims. It should not be, here's my claim, and now I found the research to back me up. Work backwards. And then you've got the warrant that explains how the writer got from data to claim. Develop the warrant further, perhaps add more data, then keep going with more warrants to explain the new data you put in there. All right. Paragraphs should be developed in these layers. Paragraph should not, is not necessarily just a string of ideas put together and then another string of ideas put together. The paragraph should be a one topic thing, fully developed. Here's my topic sentence. I've got data. I'm going to explain that. I'm going to use a transition phrase like further or in addition. Here's so and so who said something else. And I'm going to explain how that person put it all together. Okay. Jumping to reading novels for a second. I think for the purpose of this class, there are 4 things we should be looking for: character, conflict, connection, and theme. Character is what kind of people are we dealing with in this novel? And you determine that by what the character says or thinks. And because we're in a novel, and many novels are told by third-person narrators, some of those third-person narrators are omniscient and see inside characters' heads. We get not only to hear what the character says, we frequently get to hear what the character thinks. We also get to see what the character does, and we get to see how others react to that character. And remember, many times, minor characters are supposed to give us hints about what we as readers are supposed to be thinking or feeling. So, character development, what kind of people are we dealing with, is part of the analysis. It's part of being a critical reader, and part of being a critical reader, I think, makes it easier to be a critical writer. Connection. I think one of the big mistakes people make as they're reading a novel is they take the novel in a vacuum. And I think it's always important to connect the novel not only to other books you've read. Some people read series of books, the fantasy books often have a 10 or 12 book arc. All right. Detective novels have a 10 or 12 book arc. Connect it to the other books you've read, but books outside of that arc. Connect it to movies you've seen, connect it to movies or to songs or poems. And most importantly, try to connect it to real life experience. I think the more you can make connections, the more you train your brain to make connections, the easier it is to read, and the easier it is to start thinking about reading as a pleasurable activity rather than a chore. Theme. It's the underlying point the author might be trying to make. It's usually an observation, not a moral to the story. We're not trying to say this is the rule that thou shalt live by. It's not trying to do that. It's usually an observation about this is the way life seems to be. Remember that theme should be stated in a complete sentence, not a single word. The single word can be the subject of the book, but it's not the theme. The theme is the point being made about that single word: justice, vengeance, love, hate, uh, being kind to one another. And remember, not every novel has a theme. And also, I've used the term novel here quite a bit. Please remember that we're reading 3 novels, all right? The Life We Bury, Ordinary Grace, and Trail of Lightning are all novels. The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks falls into biography slash memoir because the author puts a lot of her experiences of getting the information into the book as well. It's also a brief biography of Henrietta Lacks. It might even be a history of medical research. So, but it's not a novel. It's nonfiction. Okay, I think this pretty much wraps it up. So let's get to the daily writing. Monday afternoon and Tuesday morning there was snow. So write a paragraph about snow. Topic sentence should make a claim. The next sentence should contain some data. For this paragraph, that data can be anecdotal. And the next couple of sentences, 3 or 4, should just be warrants that link the data to the claim. The point I'm trying to get with this daily writing is that the argument paper is not just an argument. The argument paper can contain descriptive elements, can contain all sorts of other elements. And so when you're thinking about the paragraph, claim data warrant, I think, works for a lot of situations, even talking about things as mundane as snow and the weather. Hope everybody has a good day, and I will be trying to get to the topics before too long. And by class Wednesday, everybody should have had some comments made about the topics. We'll see some of you Friday, some of you Monday, some of you, will be a week from today. Have a good one.